Today on JTV, we're celebrating our 3rd year of creating JTV just for you. We have over 100 webisodes in our archives, and you can go back and check out the very first one. You'll see we've come a long way, baby. Today's project helps us create a Memorial Day arrangement that incorporates the fun of scrapbooking. When I was a little kid growing up in the greenhouse, we used to distribute hundreds of bouquets to the cemetery. And that was a fun time for me and my family. Today, we'll create this arrangement for the cemetery that will help you incorporate the same fun with your family. So, first things first, let's get our container ready. Now, this is the container that we're going to use because it's a great chartreuse screen, and that's going to draw a lot of attention to our arrangement. We've got a hole in the bottom, so we're going to have to fill that up. And I also want to add a little bit of weight to this so that it's more stable when it's sitting outside. So we use our styrofoam, and let's cut that. We'll get a small piece first that will cover up that hole. So we'll glue that down on top of that hole. Applying some hot glue to our styrofoam and then putting it in there to cover up the hole itself. Make sure that our glue doesn't come out of that hole on the bottom. And then we'll add rocks as weight. Now, I have decorative stones here, but you could go out and get gravel, you could get sand, anything will work. Even broken pot chips or things like that, we can put down inside there to help give us a little more weight. Now I use the yellow Santastic inside there, but just knowing that that gives us a lot of weight, so it's going to sit firmly on the ground. Now we'll put our piece of styrofoam on top, and that looks like that's going to be about the right size. There. We'll add glue on the 4 corners. And push that down inside there. If I want to, I can take a few other pieces like this and fit them down in the sides. That'll just help so the gravel won't fall out. There, that's great. You'll notice that I kept my foam about a ½ an inch below the surface of the pot itself. And because we're going to use this spike first to go down in there and cover it with these silk flowers, and then use our other yellow flowers on top of that, we'll cover up most of this. You could use some moss on top of that, but in this case, I think this is going to be just fine. So I found this bush at the craft store, and I liked it because, again, it was the chartreuse screen. That chartreuse screen coloration always attracts our attention. It's the first color that our eye goes to. So if we think about this, sitting out at the cemetery, our eye's going to be attracted right to this arrangement. I'd like if the whole thing was chartreuse green. So let's grab some just for flowers and make the whole thing chartreuse green. The fresh green just for flowers was developed by Design Master to be used on fresh flowers, but it works great on silks too. With the silk flowers, we don't have to worry about staying 12 inches back. If we're using it on fresh though, remember that we have to stay back. We've got some webisodes about Just for Flowers back in the archives, so check out our webisode dedicated to Design Master Just for Flowers. It'll give you all the tricks behind using this great product. Make sure that we hit front and back. There we go. The whole thing matches now. That's the great thing about Just for Flowers is you can blend any color together because it's transparent. So we could stick this in as one spike and make one insertion. Or we can cut it up and put it in individually. I like putting it in individually because it gives me more control and allows the flowers to be a little more natural. So we use our trusty Nip-X and just trim off all of those stems from the bush. Then each one of these we can individually place into the styrofoam. Now, you can use your hot glue gun or you can use your glue pan, but the glue is essential because this is going to be outside and it's going to be in the wind, it's going to be in the rain, and we want to make sure that the flowers don't fly out. So applying that glue to the stem first will take care of that. I'm adding these in a random pattern around the outside of the container first, creating a collar all the way around the outside. Next, we'll fill in. By blending these colors and having everything be chartreuse green, the whole base of this becomes a wonderful palette for everything else we're going to add. There, it covers up everything so nicely. And again, it makes sure that we have that chartreuse green as a backdrop for these beautiful yellow zinnias. So, we can trim off these yellow zinnias, and you'll notice that some of them have 2 flowers on them, some have 1 flower. And because of the way these are constructed, we can just move these leaves up the stem, giving us some more room to put our insertion down inside the styrofoam nice and deep. Add this one in the middle. Another one off to this side. The detail on so many of the bushes that are available is great. This one has a little bud where other ones have larger flowers, so we've got good differentiation between them, and it makes it look a lot more natural. I love being able to work on a turntable because it allows me to turn my product around and look at it from all sides. This one will separate and go in a bit lower. And I think we need one more stem. The rest we can save for later on. That's the great thing about permanent botanicals is we can put them away and use them for another project later on. Now this looks great. That chartreuse green down below really accentuates the flowers that are up above and gives a great backdrop. This is going to attract a lot of attention, so everybody's going to look in this direction and actually see this arrangement we made for the cemetery. Now comes the fun part. I wanted to use some of the new designer dots from Floracraft. The designer dot is a really interesting form of styrofoam because it's environmentally friendly. That's right, styrofoam and environmentally friendly. With all of the styrofoam pieces that they create at Floracraft, they save the scraps and they re-extrude it. So they melt it down again and create these wonderful colored dots that can be used for a project just like this. So this is recycled styrofoam. It's decorative and it's a fun way for us to use it. We're going to use 3 different sizes. And I just wanted to give you the idea that you could put a photo on here, you could put a special date on here using press-on letters like this, or any type of fun thing you wanted to put inside here that would create or generate a memory. With scrapbooking being such an important part of our lives today, this is an interesting way for us to carry that trend over to a beautiful arrangement like this. So maybe there's a special photo and we wouldn't use the actual photo, we'd run it off on a color copier and maybe laminate it and put it on here so that it was water resistant. Then we can place these things into our arrangement and really personalize our cemetery celebration. We'll use our color sticks and apply glue to the end and insert them right into our designer dot. That gives us something to stand up. Because the designer dots are hard, I went ahead and used an awl first and created a hole in there so it would be easier to stick this in. An awl is like an ice pick. Chopstick would work great. Anything that's nice and hard and pointed. And one more. We're seeing huge trends in today's society in creating celebrations of life. And I think memorializing someone like this for a cemetery decoration falls into that category. We're seeing people having parties that celebrate the wonderful lives that people lived. And this is a great way for us to tie into that celebration mode. Looks like we can use that full length. So again, we'll apply our glue before we place it into the styrofoam. We'll use a second one a little bit shorter. And we'll do our third one even shorter yet. We can adjust our blossoms too on the permanent botanicals so that they show up. Now, we'll just add some ribbon. I've got one that's green and orange and yellow, and it's a sheer. It's also made of polyester, so that's going to be great for it to be outside. It has a wired edge. That'll be helpful as well, and we'll use that in this design. We'll cut a length of it and do our dovetail like we learned in our bow making episode, where we lay that over the top and cut at an angle. That gives us a great decorative edge. Then we'll add it the same way that we do by taking it and inserting it down into the foam. Pushing that down into the foam itself. So we've got great loops that look like that. Now the other thing you'll want to think about is that it's going to be outside and it's going to be windy. Even though we weighted this container, we're going to want to do something else to assure that it keeps standing up straight. So I have 2 heavy wires. Now if you don't have heavy wire like this, you could use a coat hanger. That would be great. Just cut it apart using your Nip-X and take the edge and turn it into a loop like that. You can do 2 or 3 of them. And what we'll do with that is, when we get to the cemetery, we'll take that and hook it on the inside and then push that down into the soil itself. So that's going to hold on to the edge of our container and be down inside the ground. It's a perfect way for us to secure that so that it won't fall over. This is a fun way for us to create something updated for this year's Memorial Day. Until next week, keep having fun with flowers.